All right, hello everybody, welcome back. And we are in the throes of February abstraction. So we have got an abstraction theme going on, and we're sort of going through a bunch of different artists this month. And today's artist is going to be Georgia O'Keeffe, who's a wonderful American artist, most famous for her kind of Southwest themed florals and landscapes and skulls and things like that. And we'll look at the piece that we're going to do here in a minute. But I want to, of course, go through what we're going to be working with. We are working with acrylics today. And this is a deceptively, it looks easy, but it is going to be a tougher one to do with acrylics, and I'll explain that in a minute. But first, let's go through our supplies here. And as I said, we're working with acrylics. And I've got basically the three primary colors and a couple of earth tones, raw umber and yellow ochre, white. And then we've got some gel medium, some Artist Loft gel medium. And then, of course, we've also got our cotton rag or paper towels, a container, just an old like yogurt container, something for putting your water in, and then a variety of brushes, which I will go into. Filberts, flats, and rounds all work great for what we're going to do today. And then I'm going to be painting on canvas, a piece of 6x9 canvas done from a pad, and I'll show you that in a second so you know what I'm talking about. And then a disposable palette for mixing paint and just sort of generally having all of your colors ready and open and ready to go on your canvas. So that's our basic outline. And as usual, if you've got any questions about supplies or anything else that comes up, feel free to put those questions in the chat, and Jimena will relay them to me, and we can sort that out as we go. Okay, so today's picture, Georgia O'Keeffe, as I mentioned, American artist. She lived to a good ripe old age. I think she was in her 90s when she passed away. I think maybe back in the 80s. I can't remember exactly. But she painted for quite a long time. Originally started in New York City, as a lot of artists did during that era, as the art world shifted from Europe to America post-World War II. And once she got into the Southwest, the American Southwest, her work, her subject matter anyway, changed pretty dramatically to much more organic forms. Prior to this, she did a lot of cityscapes and things like that. So if you want to take a screenshot of this and kind of blow it up and work along with a bigger version of this, that's why I'm letting this linger on the page. So feel free to go ahead and take that screenshot while I'm chatting about Georgia O'Keeffe. Okay. So from here, let's go to here. And when I said canvas pad, this is what I'm talking about. A canvas pad is basically a pad of not paper, but pieces of canvas. And so what I've done is I've taken a piece out from here. It's already pre-gessoed. You can tell the front and the back in this particular pad. This is sort of the Artist Loft brand. If you see the difference here, this is slightly beige. This is more white. And this is the side that you want to paint on. Some have both sides primed with gesso. This one only has one. I find this easier to work with because I know which side I'm supposed to be working on. And if you always wanted to work on the other side, if you're just doing a bunch of practice ones, you could throw a coat of gesso on the back, and that would totally work. So that's the surface that we're painting on. The brushes that I'm going to use, I haven't gone over these in a few weeks, so I'll just show you. These are sort of two nice little sets. They're really cheap. They're like, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks. And then one of them has sort of these orange ones. And then the other one, the other set has these whiter, more bristly kind. They're a little dirty because I've used them quite a bit. These are basically imitation sable, so they're smoother. Sable is smoother. And then these rougher brushes are called bristle brushes. They just have a little bit more texture to them. The paint's a little bit more streaky when you put it with these, and more smooth with this. So it's really kind of a feel thing. There are situations where you would want to use these, and then there's others where these are more applicable. And I'll kind of go over that a little bit as we're working along. But this is the selection of brushes. This is what officially falls under the heading of overkill in terms of the amount and variety of brushes. But it's good to have too many if you can afford it, or if you've got them hanging around. Just bring whatever you got out there. The one thing you don't want to use is watercolor brushes. They're a little bit too flimsy for this. So I'll just set these aside so we can see what we're doing here.
So
and yes.
We do have a few questions about, so what happens if someone doesn't have gesso or the canvas isn't gessoed? Can we still do this project?
Yes, you can. As long as you have a surface to paint on. The one thing that you're going to want with a surface to paint on is a degree of absorbency. So paper works fine, cardboard, even like a cardboard box would work. All the gesso does is it creates a nice tooth for the surface, and it creates a little bit of absorbency, so the paint goes on sort of in an optimal way. If you don't have gesso, like if you were to paint on raw canvas, I were to flip this one over, the raw canvas really sucks up the paint, and it can be kind of hard to get any kind of continuity with your strokes. It kind of grabs your brush, and it's really hard to get kind of a nice flowing mark on here. But you can. The short answer is you can. It just might be a little bit more difficult. Hopefully that helps. Any other questions?
So what side of the canvas are we using again, of the canvas paper?
So if you've got a canvas pad and one side is a little bit like sort of more tan, like beige, and the other side is white, you want to go on the white side, because that has the gesso already prepared on it. And then you can see the slight difference. This is a little bit creamier. This is a side that if you painted on it, you would still get a painting, but it's just a little bit too absorbent and kind of sucks your paint out of your brush, and really just you're constantly going back and forth between getting paint all the time. So this is the side, the white side, the really bright white side is the side that you want to paint on.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Okay, so what I've done here is I've done a little drawing of our painting over here. I've got a little shadow on here, which is kind of bugging me. Let me move that. There we go. That's better. I've got my paint. I actually had my paint wrapped up in plastic wrap from last week, and these are all still good. This is my sort of trick with acrylics, and I just take a little rag like this and wet it, and then just put it in here, and then wrap it up in saran wrap. And the acrylic paint, which would normally dry in a couple hours, is good for a whole week. So a good way to sort of save your acrylic paint if you're looking to do that sort of thing. So I've got everything drawn out here, and I'm just going to go through this with you. I'm going to go through this is a colored pencil. You can do it with, a pen or just a regular number 2 pencil. I've got these oil-based pencils that I've talked about. Oil and water don't mix is kind of the principle that I'm dealing with here. I'm dealing with a water-based paint, acrylic, and these oil-based pencils do not bleed and leak into the colors as I'm painting. So this is why I use these. So what I'll do is I'll just go around kind of the major points here and just kind of discuss the layout of this. So this is a really kind of close-up view of a plant and an idealized and stylized view of this plant. I don't even know what the title of this painting is. I just really like the colors, and it was sort of cooler, and I tend to work in sort of warmer colors. And I've also tinted the background of this canvas, just this green color. You can see it over here. I mixed it up earlier. and it's a mix of cobalt blue. It can be ultramarine blue or whatever blue you have, and then sort of this really strong yellow, like a lemon yellow or a cadmium yellow, and then a tiny bit of yellow ochre to kind of give it a more earthy feel. So it's kind of a nice light tone of green, because this painting is predominantly a cool painting. It's got a lot of blues, it's got a lot of greens, and then it's got this sort of purple black, which is going to be kind of tricky to mix, but we'll see what we can do with that. So I've already done this, and then I've done the drawing over it. You do not need to stain the canvas this color. You do not need to stain it any color. As I've discussed in prior demos, I like to stain it because it gives me a softer background than a really bright white. So that's my rationale for doing it, but it's definitely sort of a viewer's choice kind of thing. Okay, so I am going to do a sort of an abbreviated version of this drawing for everybody so they can follow along. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to try and do it sort of talking about the composition, and the composition is just where everything goes in the painting. And George O'Keeffe was sort of a master compositional artist, had a really good sense of balance and evenness to the page. So I'm going to go over some of this. Let's just start at the bottom. There's no right or wrong place to start, but you got to start somewhere. So let's do it. This bottom left corner here is where the foliage basically starts, and it kind of comes up in a triangle to the base of the plant, and then it kind of goes back out up here. So we'll start down here, and it's right in the corner, and that is very intentional. So let's start there. I just got to get something. Come on.
So Mike, in the meantime, I will.
Yep.
So two things. First of all, someone said in the chat that this painting is called Jack in the Pulpit. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we have a couple of questions about it already being painted like green and the outline being there.
Yep.
Was this a previous thing you did, or were we supposed to already have it ready?
Oh, no. It's just something I did. I'm trying to streamline things as best I can so that we use the brief 1 hour that we have together as economically as we can. So I'm going to follow along I'm basically going to trace what I've already got down here so that everybody can kind of catch up with what I've got. So we're all going to be at this stage when we actually start painting, or close to it anyway. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and also for everyone, this class is being recorded, so you can feel free to watch right now, and you can always come back and watch it later at your own pace.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that, and that's actually not a bad way to do it, is just sort of look and go, oh, wow, that looks interesting. And also the flip side of that is if you're working along as I'm painting, and you miss something or if something doesn't make sense, you can always rewatch it in the recordings as well, and just sort of, kind of go back and forth between the parts that maybe didn't make sense, or that I was going too fast or something like that. So always an option. All right, so let's start with the drawing here. So I'm going to start down here in this bottom corner, and it's right in the corner, and it just sort of comes up. If you want to make a little mark about 1/3 of the way up, like doop, that's about where we're going to end up with the Jack in the Pulpit. Thank you very much. And it's pretty much centrally located. If you sort of look at the distance from here and there, there's a pretty equidistant. So we're going to end up here. And it's just a series of kind of nice little steps. And then this is sort of the outer foliage, I guess. And then that sort of the inner leaves of the plant start and kind of bring us right up, sort of 1, 2, almost like you're making a little heart, and then up to the top, and then into the petal of the flower itself. And I'm going to stick with just sort of being down here for a little bit. And this is like, think of this, if I put a little eye there, it's like a fish coming up, and there's a fish if you want to sort of equate it with something else. And then we'll start over here. So this one starts up about almost where the plant begins over here. So if you want to just start here, and then you can kind of work your way in, it kind of goes up, stepping up again, and then up to these two little ridges here. And we basically now have this kind of nice triangle stuff here. I'm going to do a little bit of this. This is sort of the veins. And I had to, the paper was slightly off, so I kind of had to change things a little bit. So this area down here is a little bit bigger than in the original over here. So I just sort of did a little bit of makeshift executive decision making. And so we'll bring this one up. All radiates out from this center flower. It goes like that. And then there's a couple veins down here. Maybe I'll just put this one in here. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to get the basic layout here. And then we've got the Jack in the Pulpit. So the Jack in the Pulpit, the flower itself obviously starts where we've been working and goes pretty much straight up almost to the top. So I like to do, when I'm laying out a drawing, I don't like to go from point to point. I like to move around and get the whole page incorporated into what we're doing. I mean, especially if I'm making up my own drawing, it's much easier to do it with something like this that's just sitting over there and you can watch it. So I go up to almost to the top, straight up the middle from the fish's mouth here, right up there. And that's where I'm going to start. And then the flower has this nice open central two petals. It kind of looks like a calla lily in some ways. So it comes down as a nice curve right through here. And then around the edge. I'll just keep going. So about halfway, maybe a little bit less than halfway down from here to the bottom, or the fish's mouth, is where the flower, the open part of the flowers, the petals of the flowers ends. So if you want to make that little mark, kind of down here, and then you're basically in a situation where you can kind of connect the dots a little bit. So I just made that as a reference point, and then I'm going to work my way down to that. And this has got a nice little curve. This is a wonderful little drawing problem where this petal folds out, and then we're going kind of into the inner fold of that edge of the flower right here, like so. And then let's just connect the dots here. So this comes up and flutes a little bit. It's almost a straight shot, and then it kind of moves a little bit. And then there's another right out of that middle crease in the foliage like that. And then we'll do the other side. Connect those dots. And now we just got to work our way up to our peak again, kind of mirroring this. I mean, it's not symmetrical. It's not perfectly aligned, but it is open and it goes in sort of the same general flowing pattern. And there we go. And then we got another little lip here, sort of a little crescent moon like that. And voila, as they say in France. And then there's a big tongue, we'll call it, right in the middle there. I'll leave these. I'm not going to draw those. Those are just like little tentacles that we'll get to in the main part of the painting program. So now we've got this green area that's surrounding the central petal area. If you want to put these things in that I'm not doing, while I'm talking, you're like, I get the idea. Feel free to do that. I'm just trying to do this somewhat abbreviated so we can all get started on the painting. So the second part of the foliage surrounding the flower part starts just above that little opening there in the lower foliage, and it kind of follows that flower shape. Over here, it starts way higher and just kind of follows it like this. And then you've got all this crazy stuff around here, which is like pure Georgia O'Keeffe magic. It's like, I don't even know what that is, but it's really cool. And it's just got this lovely pattern. very organic shapes. And it kind of starts up here on the left side, starts up here and kind of folds its way down like this. And then the other one does it in the other way. So it's kind of cascading around and out of the top. So we'll just start just off the center, or off the center of the flower and up begins the second one. So you can see how I'm moving around. I did the flower, now I'm going way over here. And that's a good way to sort of keep the whole thing. If you want to think of this as kind of like up here, this is what's called negative space. Like there's no plant is up here or anything. It's kind of background. It's kind of a up, down type thing. Feel free to simplify it if you want to. We don't have to be precise. I've done a little bit of simplification up there. So that's sort of the outer edge of it. And then down here, this one starts almost just right about at that fish's mouth right here, but on the far left side. So it kind of lines up over here, but it's off to the side. And we'll just bring that right up to this kind of side bit of foliage that we've already done. That's surrounding the lip of the jack-in-the-pulpit. And then I'm just going to continue this one up because it kind of makes this nice little ridge. So with this that we started earlier, we just sort of continue it. See, it looks so easy when you look at it. You go, oh, isn't that a beautiful, lovely little flowy flower? And then you draw it and you go, what is going on here? It doesn't really make sense, but it works. And, that's sort of Georgia O'Keeffe, and in a broad sense, abstraction. Like it's not really an accurate botanical drawing, but that's not what she was going for. I mean, she wasn't an illustrator. She was a fine artist, and she was trying to make things that were distinctly her own. And so there's a little bit of a kind of a tornado shape up here where the blue comes through these bits of green. And that was also very intentional, just to kind of, I think, break things up here. And then this one, we're just going to do the outer edge on the right-hand side. We'll go here, and you can kind of continue it through. And then this one kind of comes on top of that one. I sort of hinted at a few ridges on the interior here. I'll just do these really quick. Hopefully, once you've got all these bigger shapes, this will make more sense. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, let's start. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the area in the background. And this painting, if we compare it to last painting, this is very different in terms of the application of the actual paint. Georgia O'Keeffe was very much about blending colors and blending shapes into each other. Whereas if we look at Paul Cézanne, last week's artist, he was much more blocky and geometric. Some people make, Georgia O'Keeffe is sort of classically, her pictures are more feminine, and then Cézanne was more masculine. I don't necessarily buy all of those sort of easy pat descriptions, but it's definitely a difference. I mean, the way Georgia O'Keeffe applied paint was really different than the way Paul Cézanne painted. So we're going to have some different challenges with us this week. So I'm going to start with kind of a nice mid-size brush here. So this is a size 7. So sort of, medium small. I'm working on a fairly small canvas, as I usually do. So, you don't want anything that's gonna, be too big. Something like this would be a bit of an overkill. This is like a 3/4 inch brush or something like this. So I'm using something like this, which is, really pretty small when you compare it to kind of a bigger brush. But as always, it depends on what size you're working on. So I'm going to start. I don't actually have some blue in here, which is something that I'm going to need. So I'm going to start here with, actually, I think I'm going to go with a cobalt blue. And I've got two types of paints here, and I want to show you these because this is kind of an important thing to be aware of. One of these, there we go. They're both up there now. It's in a little delay here. Sorry about that. But one of them is bigger and one of them is smaller. And the smaller one is what's called the professional grade. The bigger one is what's called a student grade or beginner grade or academic level. There's lots of different, these are called academic level. This is called professional. This is more expensive than that. You get less paint, but you get more pigment. It's got more punch. It's got more intensity. Either of these will do the trick. Just sort of pointing these out as a difference. This is an Artist Loft brand for sort of, more, people that want sort of a higher pigment load. And then these are sort of more introductory. If you're just getting into painting and aren't quite sure what to use, get these. My father was notorious for, was like, oh, I'm going to take up oil painting, and he'd go out and buy like $1,000 worth of equipment and then end up using like maybe 1/10 of it. It was good for me because I always inherited his supplies. But it's, it's something that you just sort of baby step your way into it. Get the introductory level, and then it's like, oh, I love painting. I absolutely love it. And then, maybe try one of these, two of these a month, just to sort of introduce a different, a different sort of working model. So I'm going to put a little bit of this. And the reason I'm choosing this is not because of the pigment load, because the color, cobalt blue, I think is going to be better suited for the blue that's going to be in this background. But ultramarine will work. Phthalo even would work. So you've got choices here. And then the other thing that I'm going to use is just a little bit of medium. I might not use it right away, but I'll have it out ready to go. And actually, I've already got some, so I don't need to pour any more out. See? And then I'm going to use some white because I want to thin this out or lighten it, or as it's known in the art world, I'm going to make a tint. So I'm taking some white, just titanium white. If you've got zinc white or some other form of white, they'll all work. And I'm just going to try and mix this blue color here in the background. And I'm not worrying about the white just yet. I want to do a little bit of blending here at some stage. So I'm just doing it probably more white than blue. So I'm getting myself a nice light blue, and then just working any more blue that I think it needs into that. And I'm going to use this in a fairly heavy manner, meaning I'm not going to thin it out with water or anything. I'm just trying to get the color right. And then I'm just going to block in this whole area. And I'll even go into those areas where I know that they're white. I want to show you a little something. So this is where you got to keep track of your edges and shapes.
So Mike,
you don't want to go, oops, that's a flower petal, and I don't want to paint it blue. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. There was a question.
It's okay. What do you say neon blue is okay? Would that work?
Neon blue?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never heard of that color. So it's probably just if it's basically like a sky blue color, it'll be fine. If it's like something really pale blue or almost looks gray, that probably won't work. You want something that's pretty intensely blue. And neon blue sounds pretty intense. So I think it'll probably work just great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. All right. And now I'm just kind of blocking all of this negative space in here. Negative space also, if in layman's terms, might be considered background. Also, if we want to be really obvious about it, it is the not flower part of the painting. So this nice, cool green background that I put in there, I think is going to work great. So this is about right. I don't have the white in there yet, but I'm pretty happy with this color. And I'm just going to sort of continue on sort of in all these different blue areas here. And like I said, I'm working pretty thickly not trying to thin it out at all. Just putting a nice kind of heavy, almost impasto layer on there. Impasto meaning kind of thick, and it almost has texture to it. All right. And this is a great painting to really get used to the idea of blending and making transitions in color. And this can be a tough part of acrylics, because acrylics, there are many things that acrylics and oils have in common. The one big difference they have, though, is this dries really fast. Acrylics dry fast and oils dry slow. Like as in, it will probably still be wet tomorrow if it were an oil painting. So we're going to have to learn how to, and oils are perfect, lovely paints for blending because they dry so slow, because you can kind of work them together like that. Acrylics are a little tougher, and we're going to try and do a little bit of that. Actually, this I can plug the premium class for this month. Next week, in the premium class, I think it's $20 if I'm not mistaken. We're going to talk all about how to blend and make nice even transitions in acrylic paints, and it's going to be really kind of a technical class. Like I'm going to show you lots of different things you can do. I'll do a little bit of that today with this, but it won't be the whole purpose of the class. So if you're interested in this, and if today proves to be frustrating for you for whatever reason, or interesting or intriguing, and you want to try getting some better blending methods under your belt, maybe next week with the premium class. All right, so there's our background. Only the blue part, obviously. So now what I'm going to do is this one is where I've started. This is kind of somewhat setting up to dry. Now I'm not going to even try and use this paintbrush anymore because I want a fresh one. And especially if you're going to put down some white. White is the most easily contaminated color. White becomes something other than white the moment you put anything into it. Blue, you can get away with a little bit of yellow and it's mostly blue, but with white, you pretty much are on thin ice the moment something other than white gets on your brush. So I'm going to, oops, that one's hasn't even been opened yet. I got to get my open one. So I'm just going to get some straight titanium white and just start working in these little blends of color. And so we'll sort of touch on some of the things that I was talking about as far as blending colors. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to start in this one because that's where I started. So it's the most dry. It's still a little tacky. You can see some blue paint on there. But I'm just going to work in with, and I've switched brushes here. So I've gone to kind of a round size 5. So it's smaller than the last brush that I used. And it's a smoother brush. It's more of a synthetic sable brush. So this is good for blending. This one, the brush that I used before was a bristle brush, and those are good for sort of just blocking in big areas where you're not really worried about too many transitions. You're just sort of in kind of production mode, just trying to get the stuff down. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to start at the whitest area in this painting section right here. And I'm just going to lay it in right through here. I'm just going to lay in a bunch of it, and it kind of comes right at the crease of that. And you can see as soon as I pick up a little bit, you start to get, let's do a little close up, shall we? There we go. Just kind of move right in here. Just a little bit of that blue starts to affect it. I'm already seeing kind of the limitations of the color that I had. It's not quite, this is more kind of a really kind of soft, almost pastel-y blue, but it will do the trick, and it will sort of give us the general idea here. Maybe a phthalo blue would have been better. I'm not quite sure how that would work. So already I'm starting to get a little bit of a blend. So it's a little bit open, meaning the paint is still wet where I put it down in blue. So I'm slowly just going to work it in here with the idea that it's not all going to be perfect the first go around. I'm just trying to.
We
Yeah.
have a question. Did
All right.
you rinse the brush off in water before you started using the white, or did you just go straight to the white?
This is a different brush, so it was completely clean. I did not get it wet. So it was a brand new clean brush, and I have not had anything on it. I'm using a completely different brush than I did to put the blue down. And I would recommend doing that.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Yeah. So different brushes for different colors. And for a painting like this, that's going to be pretty important because you can see I've already lost my white in here, but that's fine. I'm going to keep working it until it kind of sets up a little bit. And then I think I'll come back to it later. So I'm going to do the same thing up here. Again, the brightest white is right along the edge there. So I'll just start there and then kind of feather. This is a little bit smaller area. And I'm just going to pull some of that white out. And this is starting to get a little tacky on my brush. So I'll just rinse it out. I'll just put a little bit of water on there. I'm not completely clean. It's just damp and it's got a little bit of paint on there and a little bit of water. And then I'll just sort of pull it out. I just want to get the kind of the old crusty paint off of there. And then I'll just go back, get some more white, maybe kind of reiterate this nice bright edge. And then just slowly kind of work my way back. And, Georgia O'Keeffe had smooth transitions, but she also didn't try to make this something other than a painting. Like she didn't try to, make it completely even. If you look in this area in the picture, there is quite a bit of, and I'm going to use some medium here. I'm just going to pull a little bit of medium. So as I get more into the blending part, I'm going to make this. So what this stuff does, the medium, is it makes your paint more translucent, more transparent. So it makes for a better blend is the long and the short of it. So right here where I want it to be mostly white, I'm not really doing much. And then over here where I kind of want it to sort of slowly fade to blue, I'm going to start the transition. So we're getting a nice even flow between the two distinct areas. So I'll just do that over here as well. Get a little bit of medium. Let me just pull that in there so you can see that a little bit better. So this is just gel medium. And I'll take some of the white and then just go along the edge here. Just try and make these transitions nice and smooth. Easier said than done with acrylics. Trust me. Trust me on that. All right. And then you would just basically go kind of back and forth. So now I'll just go back and get some more white on here and do a little sort of integration. I mean, the other way you could have done this is instead of starting with blue, you could have started with white. You just kind of have to make a choice. All right. So that nice white area is still pretty white. So let's get a wide view here. It's not nearly as nice and fluid as hers yet, but we're getting there. So now I'm just going to go back to the beginning and take the blue and try and integrate that a little bit more.
So Mike, we have a question here from Wanda.
Yeah.
So what if you just naturally have a heavy hand and seem to pull all of the paint off of the brush in just a few strokes? Any tips for that?
Maybe use less paint. Like don't load your brush up so much. I'm being very economical with how much paint I'm putting on here. So, you know, just from the sounds of you know, describing how it all went down, it may have been a situation where you've got, you know, maybe too much white, it's too heavy, and you need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit with that. Does that sound about right, Wanda?
Let's see what she says.
Yeah.
We do have a question about the green base. What did he use to paint that?
Oh yeah, that was ultramarine blue, really any primary blue, and then a bright yellow. This yellow, it's called brilliant yellow, and then a little bit of yellow ochre. So it was sort of a combination of three, but you could have gotten away with just the primary yellow and the primary blue. So this is not there yet, but getting there. So I'm just kind of working back and forth. And you notice I'm not going in one direction. I'm kind of going this way, that way, up and down, side to side, sort of, you know, think of it as weaving the paint together. I find this, what we're doing right now, to be one of the hardest things to do with acrylics. It's just, acrylics just want to dry. They want to get dry really fast. And as soon as they do, it makes your job, as far as blending things, much harder to do. And man, we are running out of time. So I'm going to try and speed this up. So I'm going to take some white here. I just want to get this kind of central area a little bit more intense. So a lot of this is drying here in the middle. So this should be a little bit easier. So just kind of.
We have a couple of people in the chat saying that they're wanting to use water to help blend. Is that okay? Is that a thing?
It is. It can be. I find for blending, the way that Georgia O'Keeffe did it, using the medium is probably because the way to think about medium is just water that's got a little bit of bulk to it, like heavy water. So it doesn't really change the problem with water. I'll just give you the problem with water first. The problem with water is it can start to lift the paint up and you get these kind of hot spots. Medium does not really do that as much. You still can have it happen. But I just find the medium is a little bit more cooperative in kind of creating these transitions. But you can use water, it's just a little bit trickier. So if you don't have the medium, obviously you're going to have to do it with water. If that's the case, then I would just try to use basically as little water as you think you need to kind of get these transitions working. I hope that makes sense. So I'll do one more area here and then I want to move into the green. I'm not going to be able to do all this kind of white. So I'm just taking some of this more diluted white here and just building that up ever so gradually.
Mike, we have a couple questions about the medium. So yep. What medium did he use? And also, could you remind us what the medium is, please?
Yeah, so medium is basically what the color in acrylic paint is mixed with. So this is the actual stuff that I'm using. It's called Slow Dry Blending Gel Medium. It's Artist Loft brand. There's also, this is sort of the academic level, and then they do have like the professional, there it is, the professional slow drying blending gel medium. It comes under a lot of different names. Sometimes you can see it's called satin gel acrylic medium, matte gel medium. high gloss, gel medium. So there's lots of descriptors for it. That's not where I wanted that white to go. But the ultimate thing is it has to be a medium for acrylic paint. And it is used to dilute the paint and make it more transparent, but it still retains that nice thick paint quality that the paint does as it comes out of the tube. Hopefully that answers that question.
I think so.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna move in to another one here, and basically the way I would sort of pick at this, you know, I would sort of go back and forth and kind of build it up. I haven't done anything along here, but I just wanted to give you sort of a nice introduction to how we kind of weave these color transitions together. It's not just, you know, glob of white and then blue and so on. You can see they're pretty subtly done, and the transitions are really quite nice. And Georgia O'Keeffe had the advantage of using oils, which allowed us to do this, or would allow us to do this for much longer. But we don't have that kind of time. So what are you going to do? All right, so let's see. Let's do some green here. And I'm going to do the green right around the flower to start with. And so this is sort of more of a yellowish green. So I am going to actually take my blue that I have over here. This is my cobalt blue, but whatever blue you've been using, if you've got some leftovers, feel free to use that. I'm just going to kind of separate it from all this dry stuff here. And I'm going to put it over here. Then I'm going to use some of this nice, bright, brilliant yellow that I showed you earlier. And I'm going to mix up, I'm going to kind of do it in reverse of what we did last time. In that I'm not going to do the dark blue first. I'm going to do the lighter, sort of more yellowy green. So in other words, the areas right along the lip of the flower there. I'm going to need more yellow. However, what I did right there is probably something, do as I say, not as I do. You know, taking green and dipping it into yellow just makes a mess. But, you know, desperate times require desperate measures. So there's our kind of yellow. This isn't exactly the same color. It's very close actually to what we have on here already. But I'm just going to do this in kind of a more light to dark effect. And I'm going to take another round, a different one, a brand new one. This is size 6, so it's a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to work right along the edge here. So you can see this is pretty yellowish green. And I'm just working my way right around that flower. The good thing is that green that I put down is going to go a long way towards making this make more sense. So as I get further away, I know this color is going to get darker out here. So I'm just going to almost scrub it in, not worry about being too precise, because I'm going to put a really dark color over top of that. What that does is it allows this to dry quicker. The thinner the paint, the quicker it will dry. So as I'm in the middle here, I'm using more of a heavy coat, and then I get out here and I'm just sort of pulling the remaining paint out. And I'm just going to take some of this because I got a lot of paint on here at the moment. I'm going to take a lot of this, just put it right there. And then as I'm getting less paint on my brush, I'm just sort of working my way out from that center. So that's probably going to be fine. And like I said, this base color is actually going to do us a big favor. It won't make the transition so abrupt. So really just kind of establishing the light, it's almost like it's glowing through. And there's a nice transition here, which I'm not going to be too precise about this, because right up in here, if you look at that, that's almost more of a turquoise color. So I'm not going to bother too much with what I got here. It's more just right around the flower, like right in these little creases here. Now, the advantage of working light to dark is I can just go from this color and then just add my darker color to that one, to the yellowish green that I've already mixed up. And that's really the only spot. There's a little bit of this yellow green here, but maybe we'll have some left over. We'll see how that goes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some of this, because that's sort of the root color here. And then I'm just going to add some more blue, and then just kind of incrementally pull it in there. Actually, I'm just going to use, I had some of this green left over from the base that I mixed up. This is this color diluted with a lot more water. And so I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to add some more blue to it. So I'll take that cobalt blue that I've been using, the professional grade, because that's the only one I have. So here's my little triad of colors. I've got a blue, which is really going to make it dark, and then sort of that dark green, and then a light green. You could do this in like a blue, a yellow, and then a green mixed together. You know, there's lots of ways, but it's nice to have kind of 3 tones if you're using a color that's got a lot of variation to it. So it just sort of gives you kind of the working pieces of the puzzle. So I'm just going to take the base color that I had, just going to pull some of this in, and maybe just start that, just kind of working out towards the edge here, because it does get darker. This will eventually get even darker than I've got it here. And again, these colors aren't exactly precise, meaning this is not necessarily the color that George O'Keeffe ended up with. But, you know, we don't want to run into trouble with the George O'Keeffe estate. There we go. So this one, we're working more light to dark rather than dark to light like we did in the blue section. You can do it either way. I just wanted to sort of give you a few options. And I'll just move that. I'm going to have to just sort of do this in increments because we're getting really close to the end. See what I said by it seems like a deceptively simple painting. It's really, there's a lot going on to get it right. Just the blending itself is really kind of difficult. So I'm just going to sort of leave this side kind of open, and I'm going to take this green and then add some more blue to it to make it even deeper, make it even a deeper green. So just sort of slowly working from this to this to this, and then from here I'm really going to sort of work that edge. And again, working pretty thickly. I'm not at this stage, I'm not really using the medium too much. I just want to get sort of the basic color ideas in and established. So just working that nice dark edge, sort of dark green to blue, to just get that rich color here. Now, just to sort of peek ahead, the green that's around this, like this is a darker green. So you would basically do the same thing that I'm doing here, but probably have more blue and not nearly as much yellow in the foliage out here. So overall, the effect is this is going to be slightly darker. But if you look at the highlights, in the areas around here. They don't have that yellow. It's more of a light blue, you know. So if you look at an area like this, say on the picture, that's very different than this. So, you know, your approach is going to be similar in that you might begin with kind of that lightest area, but it's not going to be a greenish, you know, it's not going to be a greenish yellow. It's going to be more of a light blue. So the blending approach will be similar, but the colors, the hues will be different. So you can see here that I'm just getting the idea of this yellow glow kind of established around here. And then you can kind of go back and forth and really make the blend kind of complete. There's not much yellow right around this one here. There we go. Deceptively hard painting. I can make the argument that every painting is deceptively hard. It's like it looks, oh, look at that, that's paint, I can do that. Then you start laying it down and go, what was I thinking? So now I'm just sort of working back kind of with that green, not the blue. And then I'd sort of bring that in here. Bring the blue in eventually. There we go. Now I want to end by, I'm not going to get to these greens, so I apologize for that. But I do want to try and mix this really intense purple in the next 2 minutes. The 2-minute blend. I may go over a minute or two.
That's perfectly fine.
All right. You can tape your favorite show if you're missing your favorite show or something like that. Maybe. Tape. I'm dating myself.
We all get what you meant, though.
Do they even have TiVo? I never even used TiVo, and I don't even know what it means. I heard people say it. All right. And so on, we go with that. So let's try and mix that color really quick. I'm going to get another brush here. I'm liking these rounds. They kind of blend a little bit better. And I'll use a bigger one. And I'm going to mix up, I'm going to try and mix up that purple. So I want to clean off my palette knife. And start with, I believe the blue that I had over here, this cobalt blue, is going to be just perfect. And I have a lot of it. So I'll just conservation of resources. And then a nice primary red. This is called Brilliant Red here. Cadmium red would also probably work. But you just need a primary. This is kind of crusted over a little bit, but I think I got some good paint in there. I'll use a little bit of that. So it's blue, but I'm just trying to darken it into a purple. And I think I'll use a little bit of this cadmium red just to give it a little oomph. This is going to be tough. This is a tough color. That's why I wanted to do it, but I saved it to the end, which was probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. All right, so that's clearly too red. So I'm going to need some more blue, and I think I'm going to go with an ultramarine blue just to sort of get a few things up and running and see how they look. This is me wasting a lot of paint, sadly enough. So what I'm going to do now is I want to keep it sort of on the blue end. So I'll just add some of that red kind of in a small increment. See how that goes. Oh, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, there we go. So if you look at that, so it's kind of a mix between ultramarine blue. It looks kind of black, but that flower is kind of black. So I'm going to try something a little different. People were asking about water. I'm actually going to do a little bit of water and kind of apply that to the lighter areas. So like right up here. So this is sort of that red over there. It's kind of purple, a little bit on the red end. And I'm just going to sort of lay that in a little bit loosely. And now I'm just going to start adding this really heavy dark and try and get that blend and see how that goes. Actually seems to be working all right. And Georgia O'Keeffe, being a master painter and really knowing what she was doing, put this nice dark purple against this kind of light yellowish green. Those are complements of each other, meaning that they work really well together. Purple and yellow, or purple and yellow green, or anything with yellow in it really, and purple is a good match. So I'm doing the blending here more of a wet into wet. So both paints that I'm working with are damp. So this creates the ability to kind of mix them a little bit better, because they naturally kind of want to mix with each other. So I'm doing a little bit of weaving. So getting that nice little glow up there, but getting really dark. And what I would probably do, we're almost to the end, is add some black. And I just so happen to have some right up there. So my last bit of the puzzle here, this brush is almost too big. It's really dark right in there. So I'm really going to use a lot of black in here. So remember, I made a tint of blue over here. Now I'm going to make what's called a shade of blue. And that just means you add a darker color to it, mostly black. So we'll just do that really quick here.
So Mike, quick question. Someone's asking, do you know what color you're planning on priming your canvas for next class, so they can have it prepared?
Next class. Well, the next class is the premium class. And a good general rule for priming your canvases ahead of time is do something kind of neutral, like not a really bright color. So I like to do yellow ochre. Today's I did not do yellow ochre because it was more of a cool painting, and yellow ochre is a warm color. But a good safe bet is yellow ochre. I would say 90% of the canvases that I ever prime are yellow ochre or raw sienna or something earthy like that.
Perfect.
Hopefully that helps. Yep. And so last little bit here, I'm going to take a smaller brush. This is one that I used earlier, but I'm going to clean it. And I'm just going to take some black and throw a little bit of that into my purple. And then that's going to be kind of my final touch color-wise for this inner part of the flower, the petals. Yeah.
All right, another question just came in from Nellie. So would it be okay for the veins, would it work for the veins to use something for acrylics like masking fluid or watercolors?
Masking fluids would not work because acrylic is too thick, and it would cause all kinds of peeling issues. You could tape it off, I guess, with a stencil. I mean, this is kind of a hard shape to do. But that could work. I mean, the other thing you could do is just, and actually this is kind of working. The color that I painted as the base is actually what these veins are. So I kind of got lucky. Yay me. It's good. It's good to get lucky. It's better to be lucky than good, is what they say. So you could sort of pre-paint them the color that you want and then just work around them like I am here. The problem, as you're probably seeing here, is it's kind of hard, especially as I'm rushing this a little bit. It's hard to kind of maintain the integrity of that shape. But like I said, I do have that color. So I could go back and kind of lighten this green that I had and just kind of reiterate them a little bit. That's probably how I would do it. Try to do it exactly the way I'm doing it here. You know, if I had a nice leisurely afternoon to work on this painting again, I would probably just be a little bit more precise about masking them off by hand. I kind of like those little slightly obsessive challenges. So, but yeah, I think that color actually looks pretty good. So we got the bulk of it here. Sorry, I wasn't able to finish a whole lot more, but the blending here is probably the one that's kind of evolved the most. This is starting to get there. Let's have a look here. So it's really just a matter of kind of coming in here, getting that nice root color, you know, like for here, it's going to be something that's going to be more like this, but more on the blue end. So this transition to these greens is going to be, there's going to be more blue over here and than the yellow that we have here. So think of this as kind of the more the yellow foliage. This is the more green blue foliage. Same for down here. It's kind of got this more sort of almost turquoisey look to it. The one down at the bottom here where you can't see this bit right here. Okay, folks, is there maybe a few people that want to, if we could get a few look-see show and tells, if people got some work. This one obviously sort of progressed a little bit slower than some of the others, but let's see, see what we got out there.
So we have Sarah.
Oh, yep, Sarah, our always reliable Sarah. Very nice. Excellent. Yeah, you got some good color transitions in the green around the flower. That looks good. Yeah, awesome.
We have Ed's iPad.
Diane, right? Yes, Diane. Remember. Excellent.
Okay,
oh yeah, those transitions are great. Really nice.
Here's another.
Not surprisingly, George O'Keeffe did a lot of watercolors, and watercolors are really good for that. That looks like a watercolor, almost.
And then Monique. Sorry.
That looks really nice. Oh, we got dueling paintings here. Ooh, the background looks really good. It's really nice, soft, subtle transitions. Primo, looks good.
Angela, I think you had yours up. You want to show it? There we go.
Oh yeah, really nice.
We have Melissa.
Very nice.
And Twinkle's iPhone.
Yeah, that looks really good. That yellow especially looks really good. Ooh, you went orange. You went off in a color direction all your own. That looks great.
Then we have
really
Patty.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, is this a drawing? Really nice. You got a lot of those tonal shifts without using any of the color. It looks great. Nice drawing.
Kyle.
Kyle, nice. Kylie. Looks like
Kylie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
All right. I remember seeing that name before, and I was like, Kyle? Nope, not Kyle.
Not Kyle. Sorry about that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great job. Ooh, really nice. Yeah, I mean, you can see how much time you could spend on getting these. Oh, that's from last week. Did you do some more work on it, Amy? Yeah, really nice. That I noticed on mine that the blue in the background was not dark enough, and you fixed that, so that looks great. WUMC Church, that looks really nice.
And then
got some nice transitions in the purple areas. Very good. Christine, yep. You got the idea. You got the sort of the dark on the edge, the light in the middle, and then you can kind of just work them together. That's the idea. Very nice, Christine.
Okay, back to you, Mike.
Okay.
So many.
All right, folks, that was fun. Thanks very much. This is one that I'll probably try and fuss with, just because I got all the colors out, and why not? Let's see what I can do with this. So if you want to continue working with that, then you know, when you post them, just say, here's my finished version of the George O'Keeffe, and make it at Michael's and Michael's stores and all that sort of thing. Hashtag, so we can check and see what other people are up to. All right, so next week is a premium class where we will delve into this blending in acrylics a little bit more. So if you can can afford a $20 little trip to the computer, love to see you. And then the final one we'll do is in 2 weeks. That's the other free one this month for the Abstraction series. And we'll end with a Picasso one. So for that one, that would the yellow ochre. Actually, the next two would be great for a yellow ochre priming if you want to do that. If you want to prep your canvases ahead of time. Not necessary. It's something I do. I find it helpful, but it's definitely not something that needs to be done. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Appreciate your patience. And thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.